Hey guys, in this video, we'll combine fractal boards and mirrors to create a nice simple setup where you can stay organized using a Kanban board style layout, and also a today section where it's very easy to track what items you need to do next and not get lost in the complexity of life. So we'll look at 3 different examples in this video. Let's get started with the basic Kanban board. So here we have a today bullet. We've got 2 different items that we want to take care of today. And below we have our Kanban board. If you've never used a Kanban board, the idea is that you have 3 different columns: a to-do column, a doing column, and a done column. The to-do column holds all the items for that project or activity. When you start to work on them, you move them into the doing column, and once you've finished that item, you move it into the done column. It's a very simple visual way to track what you need to do for the entire project, what you're currently working on, so you don't work on too much at any given time, and what you've completed. So now what we want to do is pick these first 2 items, and we're going to move them into the doing column. Next, we want to mirror them into our today bullet. So the way to do that, since we're going to do, mirror 2 items at once, we can multi-select the items. We'll hold Alt-click on Windows and Command-click on Mac. We'll get a little context menu here. We can click on mirror, or we can use the keyboard shortcut if you prefer to do that. Next, we'll move up to the today section, press enter, and paste those mirrors. And you can see that they are mirrors because they have little diamonds instead of the little bullets. So we can now close the Kanban board and zoom into the today bullet. The next thing we want to do is star this item so it's easy to access from anywhere within our Workflowy. I'll go into the menu bar and click on the little star icon that's next to the magnifying glass, the search icon. Okay, so once I do that, I will add the item into the left-hand sidebar. So if I open it up, there we go. It's right here. This is this section here. If I expand that, I can see all the items inside of the today bullet. Great. So let's say that during the day, I just complete these items. I complete this last item as well. We open up this item, and there are several steps for this particular activity. So let's say that I get through all these, but I don't get to the last one, which is building the email in the builder tool. All right, no problem. So this is what you would do throughout the day. You would work from this today bullet. Now, at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the next day, what you would do is go back to that Kanban board and update the status of the different cards. So we're going to go into the doing column. We've got 1 complete item. We'll move that into done. And this is in the doing column, so I'll expand it to see what's happened. Now, it's a multi-step process, and so I can see that the reason it's not complete is because I did not actually complete the last item in the process. So no problem. I'll just leave it as is, and then I can go back into the to-do column and pull a new item or new items if I want to, and then mirror those into the today bullet. Now, you might have noticed that, okay, so that's pretty easy because I've got all my different, I've got the today bullet and the Kanban board right next to each other. But what if they're in different places? Well, that's not a problem. Remember that we've starred the item, so it's in the left-hand sidebar. And that means that, let's say, this Kanban board is open from one end of our Workflowy document, and the today list is at the opposite end. So instead of dragging and dropping like that and having to open everything up within our Workflowy document, we would simply open up the left-hand sidebar, right? So let's say that we want to work on this item here, make presentation for last month's progress. So to mirror the items, we simply hold shift on our keyboard and then drag and drop the item where we want to mirror it. So now if I expand the today bullet, we can see that that item is right there, and it's been mirrored because you can see that this has turned into a little diamond. So that's why we start the item, to make it easy to get to, and also to drag and drop items. So no matter where your Kanban board is, how far it is from the today bullet, you can just drag and drop into the left-hand sidebar, no problem. And then we would move it into the doing column. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention here is once you go back to the today bullet, you can get rid of all the items that you've completed. You can just simply delete them if you want to. And remember that there's no problem with deleting mirrors, because even though I've deleted it right here, since there were 2 mirrors, the one in the Kanban board and the one in the today bullet, when you have 2 mirrors and you delete one, the remaining one goes back to being a regular bullet. So there's no issue with deleting information or anything like that. If we go here, we can see that in the done column, that item that was a mirror that we deleted is still right here, and now it's gone back to being a regular bullet. All right, so let's move on to the second example. Here, what we're going to do, instead of using the traditional Kanban board layout, which is to do, doing, and done, we're going to break down the activities by the different steps. So again, we've got our today bullet, and we've got some different items for today, but instead of having that to do, doing, and done, we're going to break down the different activities. So I've got to write some blog posts, so I call it writing, and instead the columns are named after the steps. So here's the backlog of blog post ideas. Next, I want to write them, then I want to edit them, and then finally, I want to publish them. So those are the different steps that I've come up for this activity. And again, what I would do is once I start working on an item, I would drag it into the appropriate column to signal that that's the process, that it's, that's the stage that it's currently at. So I could do like this. I want to work on this first one here. I would just mirror that item into my today list. And if I want to, signal exactly where it is from the today list, what I would do is I could just tag it basically, right. And there we go. So now I know when I'm working just from the today list that for this particular item, it is currently in the right step of the process, right? So that's how we would do that. And here's another example. This one is for, let's say that you've got a small business and you've got to take, you receive quote requests for doing whatever it is that you do. In this case, it's for, someone that works with carpentry. So they've got to generate a quote, and then they've got to have it approved by the client and receive a deposit. And then finally they start working on it. And the next day they finally ship it, right? Something like that. So that's how you would do that. Another thing you can do if you don't want to create too many steps in your board, what you can do is subdivide a section. So let's say, for example, you receive a quote request from a client. They want a walnut dining room table with 4 chairs. Cool. Okay. So the next step would be generating the quote, but there are actually 2 steps, right? One is the work that you need to do, which is decide that you need to generate the quote, and you might need to do something else first, and then you finally actually have the quote, or you send the quote. So what we can do is, instead of just moving the card, we can create a sub-step within this column. So we'll go something like, let's say generate quote. We'll add something like to write. So that's, I would need to, to write or to generate the quote. And the other step would be awaiting reply, right? So for the first, the first step I would do is I would take this here, drag it into the to write step. So that's a step for me. I need to write the quote. Then once I'm done and I send it, I would drag it into the awaiting reply. And then once the customer gets back to me, then I would finally move it into the approved and deposit column. So if you want to break down your main column into 1 or 2 different steps, you can do that by creating cards. And then the items would actually be sub items within the card. So this becomes the new sub step, right? So if you don't want to create too many cards in your board, that's one way you can do that. And again, what I would do is I would mirror this item, paste it up there, or drag it into the left-hand sidebar if they were far apart, and then I would tag it. So let's say awaiting reply, if I could spell that right. Awaiting reply. There we go. So I know exactly at what step in my board it is. Great. Okay, so that's the second example. And finally, let's go to the third example, which is a global board. So again, we've got a today bullet. And in this case, instead of breaking it down, breaking the board down by the different steps, each column in our board is a different area. So if you don't want to work from different boards, just want to have one master board, you could do something like this. The column is a different area. This one's personal life. This one is the work life. And let's say that in this case, for this person, they also go to school. So they have a school column where they have their homework or assignments that they need to do. And kind of building on that last example that I showed you about subdividing your column into different steps, well, the column in this case contains the entire board. So this, for the personal section, there is a to-do card with the different items, and then we would drag and drop them into doing, and then once they're done, we move them into done. So we would do something like this, open up the to-do section of the personal column. Say I need to go grocery shopping. I will mirror this item up here, and then I will drag it down here into doing. Okay, and close that up. open up the work one. Let's write this. Well, actually, let's outline this blog post. And again, I will just drag and drop this item into the doing card. And I would do the same for the school section. So, and again, I would just open up the today section and work from there. So as you can see, I hope it's kind of becoming clear, with each example. The idea is that the board allows us to maintain a structure, keep track of all the different items that we need to do, prioritize which ones we want to do for the day, and then move them into a place where we can focus on them. So we're not going back to the board and thinking, okay, did I just move this today? What am I really working on? What has the highest priority? You do that at the very beginning of the day or at the end of the previous day. Figure out what's the game plan. Mirror them into a today section, and that's what you're going to work on. So it's just very easy to stay on top of things, figure out what you need to do, plan a little bit just at the beginning of the day or at the end of the previous day, and then focus the rest of the day on just one section. That makes it a lot easier. You're not jumping around in different sections, searching for things. You've already decided, and you just need to kind of do just the items that you've decided already ahead of time for today. So I hope this video has been useful and sparked some ideas about how you can use fractal boards and mirrors within your Workflowy document. Let us know in the comments below if you've got some suggestions, recommendations. How do you use boards and mirrors? Have they been useful for you? If you've got ideas that you want to share with us, let us know as well. We're always, trying to figure out new and exciting ideas to combine the different features to basically be productive and stay organized with Workflowy. So be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.